Hot take, Syracuse's lineup is going to be better this year than it was last year.
You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I know, such a crazy take, right? The Syracuse basketball starting five this season will be better than the starting five of last year. And speaking of which, hello everyone, I'm Jackson Holzer. This is Locked On Syracuse, and thank you for making us your first listen of every single day here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Of course, we're always free and available wherever you get your podcasts. We are joined by Neil Adler from Inside the Loud House, and we are going to be talking about the starting five for Syracuse basketball. We'll go over expectations, possible lineup combinations we could see throughout the season. We'll also compare the starting lineup this year to last year. But first and foremost, we actually have to predict what the starting five is going to be for 2025-26. All that and more here on today's edition of Locked On Syracuse. And before we get to everything, today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Neil, we were speaking about this a little bit off air. We're at peace with Syracuse basketball this season. They are either going to be really good, and it's going to be fun and exciting. They'll make the NCAA Tournament for the first time in a while, or they may not be very good. I don't think it'll be as bad as it was last year, but they don't make the NCAA Tournament, and there will be changes with this team. So no matter what, we win here at Syracuse basketball. We're either going to win on the court or we may win off the court this season. But Neil, let's get to the starting lineup, okay? I'm curious to know your thoughts. What do you think the starting five is going to look like?
Well, first of all, Jackson, thanks for having me on as always, brother. Appreciate you. I don't want to say it's set in stone. So what are we like? We're fewer than 2 weeks away from the season opener. But I feel like I don't know if there's too many surprises in store for the starting lineup. It's got to be junior Naithan George, the point guard transfer from Georgia Tech at point guard. JJ Starling, the senior local guy at shooting guard. I think it's going to be Nate Kings, the redshirt senior wing small forward from Oregon State at the 3. Obviously, it's going to be Donnie Freeman at the 4, the sophomore power forward. And then at the 5, I can't imagine it's anyone other than William Kyle, who's a senior transfer from UCLA. I feel like the only spot that's kind of could be up for grabs is maybe the 3. Could we see Tyler Betsy there? Some people want Kyan Anthony there. I don't know. I don't think that's going to happen, but I feel like that's the only spot that's really maybe we could see Betsy at the 3. Otherwise, I feel like they're all locked in. Now, Adrian Autry hasn't told me that, but that's my sense.
I would say that there are 3 absolute locks to be in the starting lineup on opening night. You got Nate George at point guard, JJ Starling at the 2, and Donnie Freeman to just start. I'll get to that in just a moment. Donnie Freeman will definitely
start
be
the 5.
The starting lineup.
The equated the 4.
I am very confident that Nate Kings is going to be the starting 3.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty confident that William Kyle will be the starting 5. However, I'm not going to sit here and say it's a lock because if Sadiq White is looking fantastic, perhaps they say, let's just put him in the starting lineup right away, and you have Donnie Freeman play the 5. But for all intents and purposes, I think we're in agreement that the starting 5 on opening night, if everyone is healthy, of course, is going to be Nate George at point, JJ Starling at 2. The 3 will be Nate Kings. He's your big shooter in the lineup. At the 4 is going to be Donnie Freeman. And at the 5 is going to be William Kyle, the transfer from UCLA. So, Neil, big question for you. People already know where I stand on it because I've said it multiple times. How do you think this starting lineup this year that we just laid out compares to last season?
Okay, so the problem for me is, and I should have done my homework ahead of time, I don't even remember what was the main starting lineup from last year.
Okay, I'll give it
so many because of injuries and whatnot. But so you had Carlos at point guard, Starling,
Chris Bell,
duh.
See, Donnie Freeman, and then Eddie Lampkin.
Okay, so on paper, because this is all conjecture, speculation on paper, the starting lineup this year, coming into this season, is, I think it's more athletic, it's more mobile, it's more agile, maybe more versatile. I think that, okay, so last year, what did Chris Bell shoot from three? Mid-30s?
Mid-30s. Yeah, Chris Bell did not have a good year
He was better the year before.
Yes.
And so Nate King shot 44 point, we've been over this, 44.7 or 6 or whatever. So I think that's an upgrade.
35% last year. I'm looking at it now.
Was it like 40 something the year before though? Like he did
42% the year before.
Yeah, that's okay. So upgrade in terms of King, and this is no shots at people from last year, but upgrade on the 3. Starling, I mean, he's a push other than if he's healthy, I think he'll be better this year. And I just hope he shoots better and all that. Again, no disrespect, but significant upgrade at point guard. Donnie Freeman, assuming he's healthy, is an upgrade on himself. Although he was having a good freshman year. Obviously, the whole team struggled on defense, but he's having a good freshman year. Averaged like 13 or 14 and 7, something like that. And then in terms of the 5, that's a tough one because and this is a big topic of conversation among fans. Some fans are bemoaning that Syracuse doesn't have a true center other than the freshman Diawara, because Soiree and Kyle are both undersized. They might have long wingspans and height or length and all that jazz, but they're undersized in terms of, they're both 6'8", 6'9".
Yep.
Lampkin, was he 6'11"? But he's more bruiser. And so he had limitations in terms of protecting the rim and switching on pick and rolls and all that. But I mean, especially in the second half of the year with Freeman out, like he had a lot of double doubles. I'm not saying he was amazing, but he wasn't like, so I feel like he had limitations and there was liabilities with him, but there are going to be liabilities with assuming William Kyle. He's not a proven scorer. He looks like he could be a good rim protector. How's he going to play man-to-man defense? So the 5, I feel like, again, having not seen William Kyle play in an actual game, is more like a push. But I feel like the other 4, assuming Starling and Freeman are healthy, are all upgrades.
I do think that until further notice, I would take Eddie Lampkin over William Kyle.
Totally.
But if you look at in terms of the fit of the team,
right,
William Kyle might actually fit better than Eddie Lampkin because look, I've documented it before here on Locked On Syracuse that Evan Maya, which is an analytical tool, they don't love William Kyle's defense for whatever reason. I guess we'll find out who's right on William Kyle's defense, but William Kyle actually provides you defensive upside. And when I look at the starting lineup, they need it because I don't think Nate George is a great defender, but he's definitely going to help out a lot more offensively. Right. JJ Starling is what he is. We know he's not a good defender. Nate King's undersized at the 3. I'm not so sure he's going to be the greatest defender either for Syracuse. And Donnie Freeman last year, given he was a freshman, was not a good defender. So you kind of need William Kyle to be that excellent defender, that excellent rim protector for you versus if Syracuse had Eddie Lampkin back this year instead, great, they might score a couple more points a game, but how much of it would they be giving up?
They need
what is the delta there?
Yeah. And we talked, I'm pretty sure you and I talked on this when you had me on your Fabulous pod more recently. They're going to have, I don't think we'll see about 3-point shooting, but I don't think scoring overall is going to be a huge issue. They need to get better on defense. Didn't they give up 77 or 78 points per game last year?
So they were bottom of the ACC.
Yeah, and they also need to get better in terms of taking care of the ball and being better than their opponents and steals per game, points off turnovers, points in transition, all that stuff. But the defense is where they really need, to be better. And I do think that as a whole, this team, as it's constructed, if they're working in unison, I think can be a better defensive team, although the bar is kind of low. But we'll see. I mean, I'm not expecting a ton from Kyle or Soiree or, in terms of offensive production at the 5, but I feel like these athletic guys can hopefully crash the boards and then get a lot of offensive rebounds and easy putbacks and all that. And with JJ Starling and other guys penetrating, they've got to shoot better from free throw line. They've got it. They were like 70%. Yeah. They got to be 75 or higher. They got to. Yeah. So we'll see.
100% agree with you on all of that. It's funny how we agree pretty much step by step so far in this podcast, but we'll see if we disagree in the next segment here where we go over possible other starting lineup combinations that we could see throughout the season. So stick with us here on Locked On Syracuse. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but, from smooth handling to intuitive controls. With all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. And like our players, we sweat every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. It's their most advanced equipment yet, designed to give you real-time guidance and endless ways to move. Whether you're running, lifting, or cross-training with your favorite instructors, this is training reimagined. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with tools that help you plan, stay motivated, and reach peak performance. And the personalized class recommendations keep you engaged. You get workouts tailored to your vibe and energy level each week. So let yourself run, lift, flex, and push forward. Explore the new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus today at onepeloton.com. Locked On Syracuse, I'm Jackson Holzer. That's Neil Adler from Inside the Loud House. We are discussing Syracuse basketball's starting five for this upcoming season. In case you missed it, Neil and I both agreed that at least on opening night, if healthy, the starting lineup will most likely look like this. You'll have Naithan George at point guard, JJ Starling at the 2, Nate Kings, the Oregon State transfer, at the 3. 4 will be Donnie Freeman, and at the 5 will be William Kyle. But Neil, we left off the podcast by stating there are many other possible lineup combinations. So this is very open-ended here. What are some other possible starting lineup combinations that you could see throughout the season?
Okay, so I guess for me, to answer that question, I think about who are the likeliest candidates to be the first guys off the bench. So let's see if we're in agreement about this. I have 4 guys that I think are most likely in no particular order: Tyler Betsy, Anthony, White, and Fennell.
I'm not going to count Ibrahim Soare because we know he's the backup center. So if they were to, let's say, not be impressed with William Kyle and they want to make a change and they just want to go strictly center by center, I would then say Soare. But in terms of excluding the center spot, you're right.
Because I don't think Womack's going to play a lot. Diawara is obviously a more developmental guy, and Bryce Zafir spot.
I don't think he's going to play a lot either.
Yeah. So in terms of starting lineup, though, I feel like my first thing would be Betsy in there. And it's interesting because he's like, what, 6'8", 6'9". He's been getting rave reviews by other players in terms of his practicing, his defense, his shooting, and all that stuff. He's obviously a guy that the staff knows well because they recruited him, and when he was a prep recruit at St. Thomas More in Connecticut, I could see him at either the 3 or the 4. So maybe he's at the 3 and you've still got Donnie at the 4. Or maybe he's at the 4 and you've got Donnie or Sadiq at the 5. I don't know. Kyan Anthony, he's 6'5", so I could see him at the 2 or the 3. Is he going to start it all? I mean, if, as we talked about on your last time when you had me on, if Kyan comes, and he, to his credit, has evolved beyond just being a long-range shooter. And Autry has said that. And I think he could be surprising in a positive way in terms of defense, rebounding, scoring at all 3 levels. But, he's a freshman, just like, Fennell and White. But could he get some time at the 3? I don't necessarily see him starting at the 2 because Starling is starting. Did I say that right? Starling is starting.
Yes, you did.
Unless he's injured, knock on wood. He would really have to be struggling for that. He's a senior. He's a captain. Him and George are starting unless there's some, catastrophic situation. But maybe Anthony could start at the wing. If Nate Kings is struggling from deep and Kyan's hitting, it's tough though. Kings is a redshirt senior. Kyan is a true freshman. So I think the most realistic would be Betsy. or maybe even Sadiq White if they want to do a small ball lineup, because White has been getting rave reviews for his leadership as a freshman, but he was one of the top defenders in the 2025 class. And like we've talked about, he is a true freshman, but he played in the EYBL Scholastic last year for IMG against some heavyweight competition. It's not college competition, but he might be more ready than other guys based on who he played for and who he played against. So that would probably be my most likely option other than Betsy.
I think that Sadiq would be the number one option.
Yeah.
And I think it's because of the center spot and where it's at right now. The center spot, when you look at the starting lineup, is the big question mark in the starting lineup.
Absolutely.
I think we can all pretty much agree on that, ladies and gentlemen. Fair. I mean, if you're listening and watching right now and you disagree, feel free to comment in the comment section below, because I'm pretty confident in Naithan George. I know what JJ Starling is. I know what Donnie Freeman at least was as a freshman. Whether or not he gets better or not, I know that he is a capable starting four. And Nate Kings, unless he's not shooting, he's going to be in the starting lineup as your starting three.
I would assume so.
So if the 5 is your question and it is answered in negative fashion, meaning you're not getting good production from William Kyle. You're not getting the production you want from Ibrahim Soare if you want to make that change. Well, what could Syracuse do? You mentioned Tyler Betsy. They could play him. Of course they can. The other thing that they could do is play Sadiq White. You would play Sadiq at the 4, and you would have Donnie play at the 5. And I know that that's not ideal. Like, I recognize that I don't want Donnie Freeman at the 5, but I'm just trying to come up with solutions here. Because if the center position does falter and it's not very good, and it's similar to what it was a couple of years ago, Naheem McLeod wasn't great, but he was the starting center. And when he went down, Syracuse had no other option other than to play Malik Brown out of position, which he did his best at, and he was fantastic at.
He was good.
Yeah, he was good. I think Syracuse could use Malik Brown this year.
Right. Senior Duke. Yeah.
But with Sadiq White, he's a great defender, which is something that Syracuse, at least on paper, lacks. They don't have a lot of great defenders. Sadiq White seems to be like he's going to be a great defender. If he has a little bit of offensive game to him and the center position does falter, he's going to be in the starting lineup. Like, it's just going to happen. They're going to have to. They're going to have to play him a ton. And we talked about this in the last podcast we did.
Yeah.
I think Sadiq, out of all the freshmen, is the most likely to see the most time. Because you look at where he is at right now and the players that are around him.
And also his position group. Yeah.
And it's his position group.
Yeah.
Yes. His technically his power forward ahead of him is Donnie Freeman. But the center spot is not necessarily the strong suit of the team.
Right.
Sadiq might also be able to play the 3 as well, which we can agree is probably the second worst position group in the starting lineup right now. No disrespect to Nate Kings, but I don't think he's better than George, Starling, or Donnie.
Yeah.
So
and that's a good problem to have if the second weakest spot is the 3 with like Nate Kings and potentially Kyan there or Betsy there. My question to you is, and I agree with everything you're saying, but who do you think in a small ball lineup would be more likely to play the 5, Donnie or Sadiq? You think Donnie because he's older, he's a more veteran, is he maybe a little taller?
He's
but
taller.
I think Sadiq could be a better defender.
He already is a better defender.
I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter when you're not playing zone. It's only the 4 versus 5 in terms of who you're guarding in a man defense, and then obviously certainly schemes on offense. But they're kind of interchangeable, those two guys. I'm just curious who you thought might play more at center.
I think Donnie because of his size. He's a little bit bigger.
He's a little bit bigger.
A little bit more muscle at this point. I mean, that's to be expected. He's entering his sophomore year. Sadiq White's coming out right now as a freshman. So I think he would be more likely. And it also makes sense because Donnie has already been in college basketball for a year.
Right.
He's more experienced. Sadiq is still developing as a freshman. You want to play him out of position right away? Like, I don't think that's the best.
Yeah, that's a great point.
I would rather, for his development's sake, play the position that he is used to. If going forward he can show that he can maybe play the center as well, then I'm fine with it. Because at the end of the day, I said this throughout the offseason, and I think we were in agreement on it. Like, we all watched Houston go to the final, and they didn't have anyone in their lineup that was 6'9" or above.
Yep.
Like, it's not just about you being 6'11" or you being 7 feet. Like, sure, I would love a great 7-foot traditional center.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, those guys, we talked about this in the offseason, those guys are extremely expensive. in the portal. They just are.
Centers and point guards. Yeah.
Everyone wants them.
Yeah.
So I would rather the better player. Yeah. Like, I just want the better player at this point. Yeah. Like, I'm not focused on getting the 7-foot center when the point guard in Naithan George is going to be better and he's going to cost you the same amount of money.
Yeah.
Now, ideally, the solution is you find enough money to get both.
You get both, right?
I think you get the point where when you have a budget, you have to make certain decisions. And I would rather what they did, which is just get the better player in Naithan George, than, all right, we'll get a center and kind of do what they did last year, which is you get Eddie Lampkin. He's all right. He's okay. But you could have done better and gotten more out of your money if you had maybe spent on a different position and you sort of sacrifice the center spot and you take a look at Houston and you say, how were they able to get to the final with nobody above 6'9"? And if you're Syracuse, it's not about can you get to the final, it's can you get to the NCAA tournament in that way? And we'll figure it out from there.
100% agree. And for me, getting to the NCAA tournament requires better defense. And this is a stupid, obvious point, but winning more games. And winning more games to me involves better defense, credible 3-point shooting, cutting down on turnovers and all that. And I think they hit a home run with Naithan George. And if the center spot, whether it's a tandem of Soiree and Kyle, whether it's Donnie sometimes or whoever, as long as it's like serviceable, not like a huge liability, but serviceable, they have really good guards. I think they have a really good wing in Nate Kings. And I think they have really good forwards who maybe can play some hybrid center. And so if the defense is better, I don't think scoring is going to be an issue. We'll see about 3-point shooting. And they don't get crushed in terms of the turnover battle, though I think they can win more games. And I agree with you. And I don't know, other than hearing anecdotally, I think Syracuse had more NIL money to spend this offseason, and they obviously retained their 2 best players. But I don't know. I don't have heavy intel, who they were heavy on from a center spot, beyond Kyle and Soiree and all that. But they obviously hit a home run with George. And if you can't get both, you go with the best option at the one spot, and then you try and get serviceable guys at the 5. So we'll see.
Yep. Well, coming up, we'll talk more about the starting lineup and perhaps the expectations for the starting lineup for Syracuse basketball. So stick with us here on Locked On Syracuse. College football is here, and I couldn't be more excited about it. The tailgates, the rivalries, energy in the stands, there's just nothing like it. But let's be real. Actually getting tickets can feel like more of a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices just magically jumping at checkout just never makes sense to me. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. It's the easiest way to store last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you are going to pay. And honestly, Game Time, it's faster, cheaper, and less stressful than any other way I've bought tickets. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKED, for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. Still got plenty more to talk about here on Locked On Syracuse. I'm Jackson Holzer. That's Neil Adler from Inside the Loud House. We are discussing Syracuse's starting 5 for this upcoming season. And Neil, another broad question to kick off this conversation. What are your expectations for this starting lineup?
Win more games than last year.
I love it. Let's stay
right the year before, or the year before, or the year before, or the year before. Win more games than they've won since 2013, 2014 when they won 28. There, that's it.
28?
They won 28 in 2013/2014.
I'm not denying that.
They won 28-6. They started out 25-0, but they ended up going 28-6.
I'd be very happy if they won 25.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Pie in the sky. Certainly, obviously, get back to the NCAA tournament. Win some games that they're not favored in. Games they're not favored in that they lose. Don't get blown out. Play better defense. Be credible from 3. Don't turn the ball over 17 times a game or whatever it was last year. And score more. Have a higher scoring average than scoring defense. There is that simple enough? Just be competitive. And Kai and Anthony said at the media day that, it's going to be highlights and dunks and it's going to be fun to watch. Yeah, I think it's going to be fun to watch. But just play as a team. Just play as a team. It just didn't seem like. And again, to be fair, it was a little bit disjointed last year for injury, reasons among others. So be healthy. Be healthy.
Well, obviously they got to remain healthy, but my expectation for this starting lineup is, well, obviously win games part, but the expectation is score.
Yeah.
You got to score a lot of points.
Yeah.
If we're looking at this starting lineup, you really do, because we know what they should be good at and we know what they aren't necessarily great at. They have one great shooter in the starting lineup. You got one maybe good defender in the starting lineup in William Kyle. But what you do definitely have is 3 to 4 players who can give you a lot of points.
Yep.
Or at least create a lot of points.
Yeah.
Of course, Nate George is someone that could give you only maybe 8 points, but he can make up for it by getting 9-10 assists.
Sure.
Like, he's a great passer. He's one of the best passers in the ACC. He led the conference in assists last season. We know JJ Starling can score. He's not a great shooter, but he can score. Donnie Freeman, he can score. Nate Kings, he can shoot. This starting lineup, the expectation is score. That's what you're good at. That's what is going to allow you to be able to beat other teams. You're not going to be able to beat them with your outstanding defense. You're not going to be able to beat them with your outstanding shooting, because you don't have outstanding defense and you don't have outstanding shooting. But the one thing you do have, the one thing you can hang your hat on, is you can score with plenty of teams around the country. I'm not going to sit here and say every team in the country, because there are certainly more talented starting lineups than Syracuse. I am not delusional, but if you look at their lineup, you got 4 guys in the lineup that are at minimum very, very capable of getting you 10 points a game. Some of them are very capable of getting you 15 a game. This is a starting lineup where you look on average, they at minimum should be able to get you 50 points a game. At minimum. I think that is a bare minimum expectation for this starting lineup. But really, I think it should be at least 60. Anywhere between there, like 50 to 60 points a game is my expectation for them.
Yeah, and I think multiple guys, last segment, if we're talking about, or 2 segments ago, we're talking about, first guys off the bench or guys that, could be in the starting lineup, whatever. And I think about like the 3, I feel like the first 3 guys off the bench, unless it's Soiree due to issues with Kyle, I feel like will be Kyan, Sadiq, and Betsy, and not necessarily in that order. I feel like, I don't know how much Luke's going to play, but I actually really like Luke. I'll just be curious about like offensive flow, like how this team does, especially look, if they get deflection steals and rebounds and push the ball out in transition, because they do have a lot of athletes and they do have a lot of guys that can play. So, hopefully, fatigue won't be an issue. That's what, transition is one thing, but last year it was just not good. It was not good. Like, there was no flow. There wasn't a lot of like, I don't know, maybe they were running a lot of set plays, but I didn't see like a lot of backdoor cuts and pick and rolls or like screening away from the ball or movement without the ball or whatever. Like, Nate George is a true point guard. He's got good court vision. Obviously, Starling can get to the rim. He's really proficient there and in the mid range. But like, how's all the pieces going to fit together on offense? Like I feel like they will score a lot. And it could be, again, in the mid-range or getting the rim or maybe from the 3-point line, but also off, I mentioned last segment, off offensive rebounds and putbacks. But like, what are going to be the schemes on offense? I just want to see more flow. I want to see guys getting open looks from 3 because there's like quick passing and crisp passing or a pick or whatever. And it's like a step in 3. And if they miss them, fine, they miss them. Like, whatever. It just was so disjointed last year. And again, I think that has to do with personnel and the point guard spot and everywhere else. But I feel like this year it has more potential to be just like crisper and more flow to it, not just with the starting 5, but like, again, when you've got a guy like Kyan Anthony coming off the bench or Tyler Betsy, who is 6'8" and could play multiple positions and I think can shoot. He didn't shoot well last year, but he also played like spot minutes in Cincinnati. I just want to see how the offense in half court sets, how it fares. Cause it wasn't good last year. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't fun to watch.
No, it wasn't. But you know what? This year, the starting point guard's Nate George.
Yeah.
Like, the starting point guard's Nate George this year.
I know, brother.
What's the excuse? Like, there is no, like, last year we were able to say, you know what? Jaquan Carlos, sorry, he's just not very good. Right. He couldn't really lead the offense because he's not a good point guard. We thought we were hopeful, honestly.
He just wasn't.
I was surprised.
He was a good point guard where he was before at Hofstra. He just wasn't at power 4 or whatever level.
But what was surprising about Carlos is not oh, well, he struggled in ACC play because he was trying to make that transition. It was the fact that he struggled pretty much right off the bat against teams that Syracuse should beat by 20 on any given night.
Right.
Against Youngstown State and against who they play in the opener, Lemoyne or whatever. Like those are the teams
they won by like
Jake
4
Carlos
points, right?
would be very comfortable, but he wasn't. And this is not a podcast about Jaquan Carlos. This is about how now their point guard is Nate George.
Yes.
Nate George is proven in the AC. He's proven in the ACC. A lot of you who are watching and listening wanted Syracuse to target players not from mid-major schools. You wanted them to target players from proven power conference schools. And I understand that even though I sort of disagree because you can get a mid-major transfer and it could work out great. It just didn't work out for Syracuse. It's more about the player than it is the school. But the point is that with Nate George, he gave you 12-7 at Georgia Tech last year. Georgia Tech may not be a great team, but Georgia Tech's in the ACC. And anyone that's going to average 12-7 in an ACC team, I mean, you're a pretty good player. So your starting point guard is Nate George. You got JJ Starling and Donnie Freeman back. Hopefully Nate Kings, if he shoots better than 35% from 3, he's better than Chris Bell was last year.
Sure.
Yeah, your starting center may not be great. Okay. But there is no excuse for this starting lineup not to score a lot of points. Mm-hmm. Are they going to be a great defensive team? Probably not. Are they going to be a great overall shooting team? Probably not. But they should be able to find a way to score a lot of points. Neil, is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I was just going to say on defense, like they gave up, I think 77 or 78 points per game. Even if they're not great, if they cut that down to like 72 or 73 and they score a bunch, their scoring margin is far higher than last year, and that can translate to wins. That's all I'll say.
And we hope that Syracuse basketball wins a ton of games next year or this upcoming season. And speaking of which, actually on Friday, the Poll Friday episode will be the expectations essentially for the season. We'll go over how many regular season games should Syracuse basketball win in 2024, 2025. Neil, thank you so much for taking the time here. Where can people find you on social media?
Thanks, buddy. So on Twitter, X, whatever, I'm at Damn Twin, and Inside the Loud House is at Loud House FS. Appreciate you, brother.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Neil. Coming up on Locked On Syracuse tomorrow, we got ACC Squad. And then on Friday, like I mentioned, is Poll Friday, where we go over the expectations for Syracuse basketball as far as how many regular season wins are they going to get this season. And of course, Saturday is a big day of action. You got Syracuse football against Georgia Tech at 12:30. You also got Syracuse basketball exhibition game against Buffalo. That should be fun, and we'll have plenty of coverage here on Locked On Syracuse throughout the weekend. So, folks, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all so much for listening. If you like this podcast, be sure to hit that like button. If you really enjoy the podcast, be sure to subscribe. Tell all your friends about Locked On Syracuse, and we'll see you all again soon.